My name is Amanda, and I'm 24 years old. I grew up in a big 2-story house that smelled like old wood and cinnamon, the kind of house where laughter and arguments echoed equally loud. We called it the family house, as if it were more than bricks and walls, as if it were sacred. And for a long time I believed it was. Believed we were. Before I go on, if you're hearing this story for the first time, make sure you subscribe, because what happened after that day, it changed everything. It's not something you'd want to miss halfway. Started one Wednesday morning. I was scrolling through my phone, half distracted by work emails, when I saw the post. A picture of my parents standing beside a golden white cake that said, "Happy 30th anniversary." Behind them was a long table, decorated beautifully. Everyone was there. My cousins, aunts, uncles, and even my sister Lisa, standing right beside Mom, smiling like she owned the moment. Everyone, except me. I blinked. Maybe it was an old post. Maybe I missed something. But when I checked the timestamp, it had been uploaded just 2 hours ago. Called Lisa immediately. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, her voice all sunshine and no guilt. "Lisa, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Why didn't anyone tell me about Mom and Dad's party? There was a small pause, the kind that slices between words and hurts more than anything said aloud. Then she chuckled. "Oh, Amanda, it was just something small. You know, family only." I felt that last phrase hit me like cold water. Family only. "I am family," I whispered. "You've been so distant lately," she said casually. "Always working, always traveling. We didn't think you'd even come." And before I could say another word, she hung up. That night, I sat by my apartment window, the city lights glowing like stars that fell too far. I could still hear her voice in my head. Family only. I thought of every time I had dropped everything to be there for them. The holidays, the emergencies, the birthdays. And yet now I was the outsider. I didn't cry. I just packed. The next morning I booked a solo trip. Something spontaneous, something wild. Told no one. Not even my best friend, Tasha. I just needed to disappear for a while. I found myself in a quiet beach town 3 hours away from home. The air smelled like salt and freedom. I rented a small wooden cabin by the shore and spent my days reading, swimming, and pretending the waves could wash away betrayal. At night, though, it all came back. The laughter in that picture. My sister's smug smile. My parents not even noticing my absence. I kept replaying it in my mind like a bad movie, one I couldn't walk out of. Then, exactly a week later, my phone rang. At first, I didn't recognize the number. But something in my gut told me to pick up. "Amanda." It was Lisa. Her voice was trembling. "Please, please come home. It's Mom and Dad. Something's happened." Froze. "What happened?" "There was an accident. Please, Amanda, they need help. We need you." I sat in silence for a moment, listening to her sob. The same sister who told me I wasn't family was now crying to me for help. "Lisa," I said quietly. "Do we even know each other?" And I hung up. But that was only the beginning. Because what I didn't know then was that the accident wasn't what it seemed. And my family's little party had more secrets baked into it than that gold cake ever did. The next morning I woke up before dawn. The sound of the waves crashing outside my cabin felt louder than usual, like they were trying to warn me. I hadn't slept much. My phone kept lighting up through the night. Missed calls, texts, all from Lisa. First I ignored them. But curiosity has a cruel way of whispering louder than pride. Around 6 a.m., I finally opened the last message she sent. "Amanda, please. Mom's in the hospital. Dad's not talking to anyone. I can't do this alone." My fingers hovered over the screen for a long minute. Then I typed back, "I'll think about it." But even as I hit send, I knew I was going back. Not because of Lisa, but because I needed answers. And maybe closure. I packed up, locked the cabin, and drove. The entire trip home felt like a rewind button pressed too long, every memory flashing by, every bitter thought growing heavier. When I reached our family house, the gate was wide open. That was strange. Dad was meticulous about locking it, even if he was just inside. The moment I stepped out of the car, Lisa came running out. Her eyes were swollen, her hair tangled, the perfect picture of panic. "Oh my God, Amanda, you came," she gasped, hugging me like she meant it. I didn't hug her back. "Where are they?" I asked. "At the hospital. But there's something you should know first." She looked around nervously, like the walls could hear her. "It wasn't just an accident. Someone broke in that night, after the party." I felt my stomach drop. "Broke in? You mean robbery?" She shook her head. "No, nothing was stolen. But the living room was trashed. Dad's car tires were slashed. Mom, she fell down the stairs trying to see what was going on." I stared at her. "And you think what, that someone targeted them?" She hesitated. "I don't know. But the police said it looked personal." Personal. That word hung in the air between us, heavy as guilt. Inside the house was a mess. The police tape was still across the staircase, the one Mom had always decorated with flowers on holidays. Now it looked like a crime scene from a bad dream. Lisa followed behind me like a shadow. "Amanda, I swear I don't know who would do this." I ignored her and went upstairs. My old room was untouched. Still the same posters, the same desk, even the same broken lamp I'd promised to fix years ago. But there was something else, a faint smell. Perfume. Not mine. Then I noticed a wine glass on my nightstand. Lipstick mark. Red. "Lisa," I called. "Who was in my room?" She appeared at the doorway, her eyes wide. "What? No one. Don't lie to me. Someone was in here. During that party, right?" She hesitated. "Amanda, it was just some of Dad's business friends. They needed a place to rest. So they used my room." Her silence was answer enough. That evening we drove to the hospital. Mom was asleep, pale but breathing. Dad sat beside her bed, staring at nothing. His hand trembled slightly, the way it used to when he was furious but trying not to show it. When he saw me, he looked surprised. "Amanda." His voice cracked a little. "You came." "I heard what happened," I said quietly. He nodded but didn't meet my eyes. There was something cold about him, like a man protecting a secret. Lisa squeezed my arm. "I'll go get coffee." She left, leaving us alone. The silence between us felt like a wall. "You should have told me about the anniversary," I said finally. He sighed. "Lisa handled the guest list. And you agreed with her." He rubbed his forehead. "Amanda, you've been distant. We thought you needed space." "Space?" I laughed bitterly. "Or did you just need an excuse to pretend I didn't exist?" His eyes snapped up. For a moment I thought he'd yell. But instead he said something I'll never forget. "You don't understand everything that's been going on. Then explain it to me." But he didn't. He just looked at the window, as if the answer was written somewhere in the night. Later, as I waited in the hospital hallway, I saw a man in a dark jacket walk past. He paused, glanced at me, then quickly turned away. His face looked vaguely familiar, maybe from that old family photo album Dad used to keep locked in his study. Before I could follow him, Lisa appeared again, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Amanda, don't wander off," she said quickly. "The doctors will want to talk to us soon." I frowned. Who was that man? What man? But her voice was too calm, too rehearsed. That's when it hit me. Lisa wasn't telling me everything. None of them were. That night, I didn't go back to my apartment. I stayed in the family house. The silence was heavier there, like the house itself remembered what had happened. I poured myself a glass of water, walked to the living room, and just stared at the staircase. Then something caught my eye. A small black USB drive on the floor, half hidden under the rug. Picked it up. It had a red sticker on it with one word written in ink. Home. My heart pounded. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered, and a folder opened with a single video file. Press play. The footage was from a security camera. Our living room. The night of the party. There was laughter, clinking glasses, people dancing. Then, suddenly the camera tilted. Commotion. Someone shouted. And then Lisa's voice. "Dad, just tell her. She'll find out anyway." The video shook, then cut to static. I sat frozen, my pulse racing. Tell who what? The screen went black. Then, a few seconds later, another file started automatically. Labeled "before it happened." The footage showed Dad in his study, arguing with someone I couldn't see. But the voice that replied, it was Lisa's. "If she finds out, she'll never forgive us." "Then we make sure she doesn't," Dad said. The video ended there. My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize I was crying until I saw the drops hit the keyboard. My own family, my blood, had been keeping something from me. And whatever it was, they were willing to lie, exclude me, and destroy everything just to hide it. And now, whatever accident had happened. Maybe it wasn't just karma. Maybe it was consequence. But I wasn't going to cry anymore. I closed the laptop, wiped my tears, and whispered to myself. "You wanted family only, Lisa? Fine. Let's see how the family survives when the truth finally comes home." I slept for maybe an hour, then woke with the taste of copper in my mouth. The house felt different in the early morning light, like a place that had been waiting for someone to notice the cracks. I made coffee, though I could barely drink it, and stared at the staircase until the sun rose enough to make the dust in the air look like tiny suspended lies. The USB drive sat on the table like an accusation. I should have handed it to the police, or to a lawyer, or to someone who wore a suit and used words like evidence and protocol. But I knew, the same way you know the ocean remembers every footstep, that bringing the file to them first would bury the truth under procedures and half-truths. If I wanted anything to change, I had to move quietly. First, I needed to know what I didn't know. Who was the man in the hallway at the hospital? Who were the business friends who used my room? And what had Dad and Lisa thought would be worth protecting at all costs? Called Tasha. She arrived in an hour with 2 bags of groceries and the kind of look that said she'd heard 100 telltale signs of trouble and was ready to help anyway. "You look like someone who swallowed a secret," she said, scanning my face as if it were a map. "Tell me everything." I told her the video, the lie, the lipstick on my glass, the black USB. She listened without blinking, then sat down hard on the sofa. "This is a mess," she said finally. "But it's yours to control. You could blackmail them." She smiled, half joking, half terrified at the idea. "No," I said. "I want them to feel what it's like to be excluded. To know what it is to be left out and to watch the consequences unfold because of their choices." Tasha's eyebrows rose. "That's revenge, not justice." "Maybe both," I said. "If this is as rotten as it looks, making them face it might save someone else down the line. I don't want humiliation for its own sake. I want truth to have teeth." We made our plan over stale coffee and a shoebox of receipts. The first move was to get more footage. If the house security cameras had captured the living room, maybe others had captured other places, the driveway, the garage, Dad's study. I needed to know exactly what had been said, and to whom. I drove to the local CCTV shop under the guise of returning an old hard drive. The owner, a wiry man named Kareem, was the kind of person who loved nothing more than the technology that kept secrets. I slid him a photo of my childhood house and asked casually if he could run a search on any cameras that faced the street that night. He squinted, then nodded when I mentioned a name. The name of Dad's accountant, a man Dad owed favors to. "I might be able to pull something," he said. "For a fee." I handed him cash and watched him work. Few hours later he called. There was footage. Grainy, backlit, but usable. A gray sedan pulling into the driveway. A figure stepping out and lingering near the study window. I watched the loop until my eyes burned. The angle was wrong to see faces clearly, but the way the figure moved, the hesitation, the hand tucked into the jacket, told me it wasn't a stranger. It was someone who belonged to them. When I confronted Dad that evening, he tried to look stern. "Amanda, you shouldn't be poking around." His voice was flat, the kind of flatness people keep behind their teeth when they're trying to hide a scream. "Who came that night?" he asked. "Who was in my room?" I dropped the words like stones into the puddle of his composure. He swallowed. For the first time since I was a child, I saw him falter. Business associates, he said finally. People who've helped the company. They needed somewhere to stay. You lied to me, I said. You excluded me. And now something happened to Mom and Dad. Something you won't tell me. His hands tightened into fists. We did what we had to do, he said. We protected the family. The irony of it tasted like bile in my mouth. Protected from what? Protection, when wielded as a weapon, becomes a prison. That night, I sat on the porch and watched Lisa's figure cross the garden. She didn't see me. She held a cigarette like an argument she'd chosen not to have. I could have approached her, demanded the why of it all. Instead, I listened. She talked into her phone, voice low. No, I told you she'll find out eventually. We have to move fast. Get those papers. Make sure there's no trace. Papers. Wait. My stomach clenched as if someone had reached into it and turned it inside out. I didn't sleep. I didn't pack. Compiled. Copied files. I made duplicates of the USB and sent them to 3 anonymous email addresses. A local journalist I'd met once at a bookstore, an online forum for investigative reporters, and an account I'd set up the night before with a burner number. I didn't plan public spectacle. I planned exposure. Low. Surgical. Public enough to force action. Subtle enough to avoid becoming the kind of spectacle that my family could dismiss as a crazy daughter's tantrum. The day the emails went out, my phone buzzed with messages I hadn't expected. A municipal inspector wanted to meet. A lawyer left a voice message offering help, in confidence. And my father, he stopped answering calls. Word traveled in the small town faster than a rumor at a wedding. People I hadn't spoken to in years texted prayers and thin condolences, and one stranger messaged me a photo of an old ledger with numbers circled in red, the very kind of thing that makes you understand why people hide things behind smiles. 2 days later, the press called. The journalist asked for an interview, then dropped the hammer. He'd found a paper trail linking my father, and a handful of family names, to a shell company that had quietly been funneling money through contracts with the town's poorest housing fund. The money vanished. Homes didn't get repaired. People I used to play with as a kid had their lives depend on bricks that never came. Lisa's voice on the video, Dad's cold talk of make sure she doesn't. It all swam together into a picture that made my blood go cold. Their decisions had been about more than keeping family secrets. It was about keeping wealth and power in a circle that fed itself. When the truth spilled into newspapers, it was not pretty. My parents were questioned. People who'd clung to us like ivy began to pull back. The police reopened the case into the accident and found discrepancies. The businessman who'd been in my room that night denied everything until his bank records, now public, told a different story. Lisa called me, voice thin. Amanda, please, this is tearing everything apart. You didn't have to do this. I imagined her saying the same words months earlier, that I didn't have to make the effort, that I didn't belong. My anger had a map now. It led straight through them. I did what I had to, I said. Do we even know each other? The words weren't cruel. They were an offering. Either we repair this with honesty, or we watch it burn and learn what our choices cost other people. There was a long pause. Then a sound like someone dropping to their knees. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how to stop it. I thought if we kept it small, no one would get hurt. But someone already did, I said. Your choices have names. When the legal investigations finally took their course, my family fractured like glass that had been under pressure for too long. Some of them defended what they'd done, convinced themselves that their hands were clean because the ends had justified the means. Others crumpled, apologizing in public and private. Dad started to look a lot older. The careful armor he'd worn for decades chipped away. As for me, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted in a way that makes you honest. Revenge had never been about watching them suffer. It had been about choosing a life where truth mattered more than appearances. In the end, the house stood, but it no longer smelled only of cinnamon and old wood. It smelled of bleach and paper and the thin, metallic tang of truth. People asked if I regretted it. My answer was simple. I made them know me again. Sometimes that's a mercy. Sometimes it's the only way to make sure the family-only sign doesn't hide what people are willing to destroy. A year later, Dad moved into a smaller place. Lisa stopped speaking at family events. The town saw changes. Audits, restitution, names on lists that previously had been invisible. Mom recovered slowly, angry at the betrayal but somehow relieved that the rot had been exposed. We were not healed. We were not whole. But there was a painful, honest alignment between who we were and what we pretended to be. On the quiet nights, I still sit by my window and think about that golden white cake. How easily it masked everything underneath. I think about the line Lisa said that day. Only for family. I think about the moment she cried and called me afterward and begged for help. Sometimes I answer the phone. Sometimes I don't. The last time she called, I said only 3 words. Do we even? And then let the line go dead. It's a small mercy. Boundary. The truth had taught me that love without accountability is little more than permission to harm. If you're listening and you ever find yourself shut out in the name of family, remember this. Family is not a club that lets you off the hook. Family is the hardest audience you'll ever be honest with. And if honesty costs you something, make sure it's the price you're willing to pay.